Hey, Dave.
Hey, Alice. Aloha and mahalo, my brother.
How's it doing over there, man? Are you guys still closed down?
We're in a semi-closed state. That's a pretty good question. We're in the process of reopening very slowly, but as you probably know from your connections to the islands, we have had a very high success rate in this. So it puts Hawaii in an unusual predicament. It's kind of like opening up too soon, bringing back the tourists, and reducing that quarantine we've got could cause some issues. But at the same time, the economic stress of keeping it closed is also causing some issues.
Yeah. I think that there's got to be a middle there somewhere, and everybody's expecting a second wave. I mean, there's not. That's not like something, you get a tidal wave, and then you're going to get other tidal waves
Right.
behind it. But in the end, it goes away.
And it's great to reconnect with you, dude. After having you on the 105.9 Cape Boy, the Big Kahuna show a few times, we had your Alice radio show on at night. This is the first time we've been able to have you on Hawaii Public Radio. So just a big mahalo for doing this. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling it from my first home in Scottsdale, but we have a place in McKenna now.
Right.
So we're over in Maui and McKenna. Shep lives on right there in Kihei. So we finally got a place over in McKenna, and I think we're coming over in August or September, something like that. Because I don't think touring starts again till probably January.
Your website says Halloween night is when you were going to resume. Is that going to be moved back?
It was going to be in Mexico City, which seems to be like the
New
biggest
epicenter.
area right now for the pandemic. So that one's going to be canceled, I'm pretty sure. But I think all rock and roll will start up again in January. I think you'll see 2020 is going to be a glut of, shows, concerts, albums coming out, because everybody's holding all this stuff back. And every rocker I know is like a horse race. We're sitting there waiting to get in the blocks and ready to go. It's weird to have 6 months off. We don't usually have that kind of time off.
Yeah, we just had Al Di Meola on the show. He was saying the same thing about being off the road for so long because of this thing. So let's dial back to you having been out on the road when the pandemic closures began to kick in. I understand you were doing some dates with one of the cats in Cheap Trick. Give us a little bit of the play-by-play of what happened.
Well, like anything else, we were in Australia doing the thing with they had the big fire there. And so we did a big show there with Queen, 85,000 people, that was great. Then we went right from there to Germany and to do these shows with Robin Zander and one of the guys from Manfred Mann. And what it is, it's called Rock Meets Classic.
Ah,
And it's you do 6 songs. There's a great rock band, a choir, really good background singers, and a 90-piece orchestra. And they only do this in Germany. So Robin would get up and do his 6 songs, with all the orchestra. But when you get up there and you're doing like Poison or Only Women Bleed or something, and that orchestra comes in behind you, that symphony orchestra,
yeah.
it is amazing. What a sound that is. We get 6 shows in, and then they tell us in Berlin, they said, okay, listen, after the show tonight, you have about 48 hours to get out of Germany because we're closing the borders. And that's when I started going, this is getting serious now. So we got out, got back to the States, and then realized everything was I thought it was going to be done, maybe a month. Nobody was foreseeing this thing going on this long. So I'm thinking in 6 months we're going to be okay.
What a trip. And the song comes up, and before we jump into the song, as for how this has personally affected you from like both the health and the economic toll that you're obviously seeing unfold in the U.S. and around the world, to the loss of some popular and beloved musicians like John Prine, Manu Dibango, Ellis Marsalis, and others, speak candidly from the heart about how this has personally touched you.
Well, I think that rock and rollers are pretty hardcore, and we went through the drug wars, we went through the alcohol wars, and if we came out the other end, then we're kind of like fighters anyways. But getting home and being at home for 6 months and observing, all the things, with the gloves and the masks and all the things like that. I only know one person that has had this COVID virus. And he is like he's an athlete. He's He's a dance teacher. He's a martial artist and all this. And he's the only one I know that had it. And so either we're staying, Arizona, of course, nobody's living on top of anybody like New York City. I think that had a lot to do with every major city. You've got all these people living on top of each other, London and all these other cities. Arizona and Maui and all of Hawaii, people live on the ground. And you're breathing your own air. You're not breathing everybody's air in the building. So I think that has a lot to do with the spread of it. As far as I'm concerned, everything's been pretty healthy around here. I got my grandkids around, swimming every day. I've got 3 studios in the house, so I'm doing the radio show, and I'm doing all kinds of Zoom things all over the world. So I'm staying pretty busy writing songs, for both the Vampires and my band. And I just can't wait to get back out on the road. I was born to be on the road, so my wife and I are road rats. It's a little weird for us to be home this long.
Well, you've used the time in one way with a contribution musically from, you have the song Don't Give Up, very interesting video too for this, and set the stage. When did you write it, and take us inside sitting there with a pen and paper and however it came together?
Well, there's a new album coming out called Detroit Stories, and it's all about Detroit, and it's all about the MC. It's like when we broke out of Detroit. We didn't break out of L.A. We didn't break out of New York. We broke out of Detroit, and I'm from Detroit, so we were a Detroit band, the Alice Cooper Band, along with Iggy in the Stooges, the MC5, Bob Seger, Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes, Jack White. All the hard rock bands come out of Detroit. So I said, let's do an album in Detroit with all Detroit musicians and just make it about Detroit. Now, this song, we had a song called, it was more about suicide. And then I said, if we take this verse, the chorus is fine. We're all hanging on by a thread, We're all just staring at the razor's edge, but we're not going to step off the ledge. It was an encouraging thing, and the idea of the song was, let's talk back to the virus.
Right.
Let's stand up and say, hey, yeah, you're impressive, but we're the human race, and we're going to outlive you. And I think it was taking the audience and giving them less of a victim point of view and more of an offensive point of view. It's kind of like being Rocky, getting knocked down and getting up and then winning the fight. Right. And so I think that I said Alice should talk this. He shouldn't sing it. He should talk this right to the virus and right to everybody else. And it worked. It's just one of those things that it was a great transformation from one song to another song, and it just absolutely connected and worked, and it's getting play all over the world because and then getting the video. I said, why don't we get as many kids as we can or many people we can sending in a video of one word from the song, and holding up the sign. And I was expecting 1,000 people maybe. We had 25,000 people.
What a reaction.
Yeah, it was amazing because I realized everybody is isolated at home. Everybody has a computer and a phone, an iPhone, so they have a studio. I mean, that's basically a studio. You can do anything with those two things. And so we got this tidal wave of things coming in. We had to use as many as we could. But it also made the audience, it gave them a voice. It gave them a look. It gave them a stance, And I think that's what was one of the powerful things, standing up to the virus.
Oh, it's a great attitude, and it's an unusual perspective, and it just adds. We've had a lot of different artists on from all of their quarantine zones, if you will, so it's nice to hear your approach is totally unique to others. One concern I have for you is being there in Arizona. You obviously already know Arizona has been sort of having an issue recently, with the ICUs and the availability. It seems like there is a rise in the cases there. You're kind of staying away from folks, though, I'm imagining.
13 nights of protest downtown will definitely raise the stats on that, because there's all these people downtown, thousands of people, and they're all marching and they're all standing right next to each other. kind of forgetting what the virus was. Everybody's now they've knocked the virus off the front page, and it's all about the protest. It's a peaceful protest, but there's lots of people, and they're all breathing on each other, and they're all doing this. So you kind of, and with businesses opening because they have to financially, everybody expects a second wave. We all know there's going to be a second wave. But when you look at it and you realize it's, 0.2% actually die from this thing, I think people are willing to say, okay, I'm willing to stand up to this thing, and if I get it, I get it, but I'm probably not going to die from it.
It's interesting how you've been an artist who's lived through, you were there back in the late 60s. Your career was starting when the civil rights movement was actually having critical momentum. When you see what's happening now, do you have any thoughts that you can add as somebody who remembers observing that period of time and now is seeing this?
Well, isn't it amazing that was 50, 60 years ago or something like that, and we're still dealing with the same problem? You would have thought that solved the problem. But there's always that 5% of people that are, racist. And to be honest with you, I know a lot of cops. I don't know one racist cop. But I guarantee you that 5% of the police force in every city have got a racial problem. And those are the guys that get all the headlines because they do all the stupid things. I think we have to look at that like almost in everything. 5% of the Muslim population, maybe 5%, back ISIS. The rest of them are just like we are. If you put a Muslim family with an American family, they'd have a barbecue. They wouldn't be even talking about politics. But there's always that 5% that will upset the entire world. And I think that's our problem with the police department. You don't have a full police department of racists in there. You have maybe a small percentage, and those are the guys that need to be weeded out. I can't see why we don't spend the money on getting a committee in every city to weed out the bad guys.
Something else about you and your connection to Hawaii. Recently, we lost a dear member of the Hawaii musical community. He often performed at your New Year's shows, which take place there on Maui, that your manager puts on and then donates the dough to help feed people in need on Maui. I'm talking about Willie K., who passed on. Can you eulogize him a bit or share any stories of your experiences with him?
Oh, man, I've known Willie forever, and I'm telling you what, the first time I met Willie, I just heard him play, and I went, who is this guitar player? This guy was one of the best blues players I'd ever heard in my life. I saw him with Billy Gibbons and Elvin Bishop from Paul Butterfield Blues Band on stage, and if you closed your eyes, you'd say, that guy who's playing right now is the best player up here. And it was Willie. Willie I did this blues festival all the time. And I'd get up and do, Backdoor Man by the Doors, or we do Paul Butterfield stuff, Born in Chicago, and things like that. And my connection with him was through blues rock. And I knew his family really, really well because, like I said, I'd go to see him. And then he'd do opera.
He was very diverse.
Opera voice. He could sing opera. And then he could play ukulele and do any Hawaiian song. He was maybe the most versatile musician I'd ever met in my life. So the last time I saw him, I'm used to this big jovial guy. I was looking at this guy that was half who he used to be. Still played great, still sang great, but you could tell that he was half there, And the last time I saw him and I said goodbye to him, I said, well, I'll see you next year at the blues thing. And he kind of laughed and said, well, I don't know about that. And he kind of knew he was on his way out, but his family's great, and we stay in touch with his family. And I'm telling you, I did a eulogy thing on video for him, and I could not give him a better glowing review of what a person he was and what a great guitar player he was.
He was so frequently a part of those shows that you would do over there. And you first met him when? What year was that?
Oh man, maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
I'm in Maui like twice a year for the last 45 years, So, I mean, I got to know Willie pretty well. And great family, huge family. I mean, everybody you look is related to Willie somewhere, you know. And I don't think you could find a local hero much more of a hero than he was.
It's a beautiful way to leave it with you, my brother. And it's a great new tune that you've got out, inspirational. Don't give up. Folks can look for it, and check out the innovative video too, produced by the equally legendary producer Bob Ezrin. And you can find it on Alice's site and on YouTube as well. And wishing you a lot of success in staying healthy and staying safe, and hoping that your tour and all of our lives can find some sort of normalcy and resumption. And hopefully we can have you back on the show a bit more often, Alice. I miss getting to talk to you, and I really do appreciate you taking time today. It means a whole lot to me.
Oh, thanks, Dave. And, we'll be back by Christmas. We'll be back there, I think, in August or whatever. So, hopefully I'll see you when I get back in town.
I'd love it.
Okay. Aloha, kiddies. It's Alice Cooper. We're listening to Dave Lawrence on HPR, and you better be listening, because I know where you live. Please make a contribution right now.
All right. Hugs and high fives. I really appreciate it. God bless you, man. Stay safe over there, Alice.
Dave. Okay, Dave. And wash your filthy hands.
I will. Appreciate it, bud. Aloha.
Okay, bye-bye.